To talk about the renewed healthcare debate and other recent developments on Capitol Hill, let's bring in Democratic strategist Spencer Critchley. He's a former communications advisor to Obama for America and the host of Dastardly Cleverness in the Service of Good podcast. We're also joined by Jeff Dunitz, a political columnist for the Long Island Jewish Star and the creator and writer of lidblog.com. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Spencer, let's start with you. Now that the Mueller report has found no evidence of collusion, many of the president's supporters are urging the Department of Justice and Congress to investigate and charge the people that they say are responsible for promoting a hoax. Make the case for or against prosecuting Christopher Steele, Bruce Orr, Peter Strzok, John Brennan, and so many others.
Well, first of all, that's a chilling idea. I would also dispute their assertion that the Mueller report supposedly found no evidence of collusion. I know that President Trump would like people to believe that. It's absolutely not supported by the very little that we know about the report so far.
But, Spencer, to interrupt you, that is what the report has concluded, that there was no evidence of collusion.
And if I may, it also said that the Russians approached them to try to do something, and the Trump campaign repelled them. That was in Barr's letter.
But go ahead, Spencer. Let me allow you to finish your thought. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure that surrounding yourself with Russia-connected criminals and saying things like, I love it, amounts to repelling them. But I don't think that what we know so far, and again, we know far too little, is that there was no evidence of collusion. There apparently isn't enough evidence to create the legal case for conspiracy or some other charge that's actually a legal charge, whereas, collusion is not. As it happens, if it were to turn out that that were the case, I would actually be somewhat relieved, because I think that would let American voters off the hook for having elected President Trump in the first place. And I think really this needs to be decided one way or the other by voters.
I'm sorry, Spencer, explain, what do you mean by somewhat relieved? Can you just clarify that?
Well, it would have actually let voters off the hook if say, the anti-Trump fantasy of him being let out of the White House in handcuffs happened to be realized. I never thought that that was at all likely. It would let voters off the hook because we all have responsibility for the Trump presidency. Those who voted for him, of course, by voting for him, but even those of us who did not, by creating a situation in which a profoundly unfit candidate like Trump could become the nominee and then the actual president of the United States. And I think that that's the issue that we as Americans need to grapple with.
All right, certainly from the Democratic perspective, wouldn't say
that's responsibility.
All right, go ahead, Jeff. What's your response to that?
The economy is better. We no longer have an anti-Semite in the White House that hates Israel also. We are no longer leading from behind. So, yeah, I'll take that responsibility. Not that I vote for him, but I was happy not to vote for the alternative.
Okay, but Jeff, should there be an investigation into the people involved in this? Do you think that that's
not
productive for the country?
Yes.
Do you think that that could restore faith in our institutions or further erode faith in our institutions?
I think we need to know why things happened. Okay, I don't think it should be a prosecution. We don't know enough for a prosecution. But we do know that, for example, when Trump said he was being wiretapped or being spied on, everybody said no, 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 no. And later we found out, yes, people in his campaign were being spied on. So, yeah, we need to find out why and how far up it went. Now, I don't think that, for example, I don't think Obama was involved in terms of making it happen. But you're not going to spy on the Republican candidate without getting permission from the president. I think this is could be a big scandal. And I say could because you know what? We don't have proof yet. But we've seen so much with Bruce Orr and the dossier and Steele and the dossier and the fact that it was paid for by the Democratic Party and Hillary. And they did it working with Russia and Ukraine. So the bottom line is that, yeah, maybe there's a case for Russian conspiracy with the other side. But I think we need to know yes or not. And right. If we find out the truth, then yes, it will restore faith back in the FBI and the DOJ.
All right. Many Republicans are urging the president to continue to focus on this rather than to perhaps shift attention to health care, which so far hasn't really worked out well for them. I mean, the Republicans have failed to get any traction on Obamacare repeal and replace efforts. So, Jeff, I'll ask you this. Why should the Republicans try to push this if they don't even really seem to have a plan yet, and if so far this hasn't really been a success story for them?
It hasn't been, but I don't want to put money against what Trump can do. But the real thing is that I think it's a brilliant strategy, because last time the Democrats refused to participate. And now, if there's a danger of it all going away, Chuck Schumer will have to spend time, instead of on the Senate floor bashing Republicans and the president, maybe he'll get involved and try to make a better plan. And the Democrats don't think it's working either. I mean, they're going for single payer.
Spencer, do the Democrats think it's working? Do the Democrats think that there needs to be work done here?
Yes, and so does a strong majority of the American people, who are going to be very disturbed to hear that the president is trying to take away their health care. I can't imagine for the life of me why President Trump thinks this is a good idea, and I don't think most Republicans think it's a good idea either. And as you suggest, it's clear that he has nothing in place to replace it. I'd also like to just say, in response to some of the stuff I just heard from Jeff, this is part of what I'm concerned about. We could go down the rabbit hole of me refuting all of the series of assertions he made, exemplified by the frankly, ridiculous assertion that Barack Obama is an anti-Semite. And then we would go down the usual back and forth, left, right, red, blue rabbit hole and not address the substantive issues that need to be addressed in this election. And this is part of what I'm concerned about. I think part of the reason President Trump got elected is this culture of distraction and entertainment.
Let's focus on healthcare now, because isn't healthcare one of those issues? Because the polls show that healthcare was the #1 issue for voters in the just completed midterm elections. To be fair, neither party seems to have addressed the issue effectively at all. Doesn't the Democratic Party also continue to get hurt if health insurance premiums continue to rise and coverage continues to shrink? Shouldn't Democrats also try to focus on that now?
I think actually the situation with healthcare has dramatically improved since the passage of Obamacare, which is why it's so broadly popular and why the Republicans lost so badly just this past fall in the congressional elections, when the Democrats were not focusing on Russia, were not focusing on this whole narrative. I'm sorry?
Premiums have been soaring, though.
And so have
I would not say that they have been soaring, and I would say what you have seen is lives have been saved, and the rate of acceleration in health care costs has been dramatically slowed. So if you want to set up a standard that the premiums shouldn't have risen at all, well, of course, that didn't happen. But I think given the constraints that were imposed on what was possible, Obamacare was a tremendous achievement. Let me also point out, it's nearly identical to Romneycare, a Republican plan, which itself was very close to what was designed by the Heritage Foundation, the conservative think tank, back when conservatives and liberals were able to discuss issues like this and disagree, but at least be motivated by an overarching concern to solve real problems. Now we seem to be lost in this tribalistic warfare where all bets are off and we can make these wild claims that the other side isn't just mistaken, they're actually evil or anti-Semitic or something like that. And I just think it does a disservice to the country.
For a second.
All right.
Do you know that
Jeff,
when he was selling...
I'll give you the final word. You've got about a minute. Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, when he was selling the Iran deal, okay, he met with a whole bunch of Jews on a cell phone, and he actually said that it was the American Jews trying to protect Israel that got us into the Iraq war. And if you send me your email, I'll even send you the tweets of the people that... But as far as the health care, I think that you're exactly...
Let's focus on health care, Jeff. Right. I'm not sure that we can corroborate what you just said, but let's focus on Spencer's comments on health care.
Both parties blew it, okay? I think that the Republicans blew it, and I think that the Democrats blew it because they never got together and did anything. I think when they had a majority, when the Republicans had the majority, they didn't try or they didn't do it well in the Congress. And I think that, even if McCain voted the way that he wanted, it still would have been only 50-50.
I think we can all agree. I think we can all agree that would benefit the American people for there to be less politics and more effective government. And Hopefully this is an issue that both Democrats and Republicans can miraculously tackle together. I doubt it, but let's hope. Thank you so much, Spencer Critchley and Jeff Dunnett. Appreciate your time. Thank you.